Good morning once again. This is Sanjay Vidyarthi from Bharat to India Connect, and we are into our first panel discussion of the day, building profitable and sustainable business models for rural telecommunication. And we have a very high-powered panel with us to address this problem. We have Mr. Vipin Tyagi, who is Executive Director for Center of Development for Telematics. We have Mr. Satya N. Gupta on my left, Chairman, Bluetown India and BIMSTEC. Rajesh Kaul, Founder and Director of LM Energy and Software Private Limited. Mr. K. Manohar Raja, Executive Director for Strategic Business for RailTel Corporation of India. Mr. Ravi Gandhi, Chief Regulatory Officer for Bharti Airtel Limited. And Mr. Rajiv Mahajan, Senior Vice President, Tejas Networks. So, thank you so much, gentlemen, for agreeing to participate in this session. We had a fantastic session in the morning, and I think some of the thoughts which we discussed in the morning probably we should really carry forward in this session as well. We were chit-chatting in the morning with Amit Marwa, from Nokia. And one of the things I mentioned to him is that probably the subscription-based model may not be the right model for rural telecommunication, considering that large population which is living in rural India doesn't even the average household income for our rural India is about 8,900 rupees household. This is not per person, household income. Average income from agriculture per se is 3,140 rupees a month. Now, in that kind of a stressed financial environment, whether subscription-based model is something which will fly as far as rural telecommunication is concerned, I have my doubts. And that is what we really need to discuss in this panel, and I'm going to open this panel basically for, are there any alternative models? And just to give you an example to set the stage essentially, for example, in agriculture, we talked about in the morning, the technology adoption in India for agriculture is absolutely low. Just to give you some perspective or some data, just 5% of Indian agriculture farmers have tractors. Only 0.8% use sprinklers as irrigation. Only 1.6% farmers use drip irrigation. And agriculture, as I talked in the morning, we have one of the lowest yields per hectare in the world. And yet we keep cribbing about increasing farmers' income or doubling farmers' income. With our technology adoption so low, it just doesn't make sense essentially. But that presents a huge amount of opportunity, considering what we see as far as agriculture technology is concerned, with IoT coming in, with droning, with UAE, with crop planning. All of these need massive broadband data essentially for them to really be applicable essentially, or to be deployed. Now, is there a model where instead of charging for pure play broadband bandwidth, to really club it together with the agricultural application? You use IoT, and essentially you pay for that. And a fantastic example of that is being set by John Deere essentially, who sell tractors, but alongside tractors, they are selling all these applications. So if you bought a tractor, you're able to get a complete UAV droning, crop planning, you're going to get IoT-enabled solution alongside the tractor. So is there a business model? And that is what I'll lay open for the panel here, and share their perspective as to how you can really build absolutely fantastic, profitable, and sustainable business model for rural telecommunication. So let me start off from my left with Mr. Rajiv Mahajan, and then we'll have about 5 minutes for each participant, so that will leave some time for some question and answer session with the audience as well. Rajiv.
Thank you, Mr. Vidyarthi. Thanks for giving me this opportunity. I come from a company called Tejas Networks, and Tejas Networks is indigenous R&D company which is building a lot of products for India market and for the world. We are today selling to more than 70 countries worldwide and are rated amongst the top 10 product companies, telecom product companies in the world. The topic which we have picked up for this panel discussion is the right topic to be discussed at this point of time, because we are building a lot of networks in the country, And these networks can only sustain if there is a very strong business model behind this. If there is no business model, these networks will soon become history and there will be hardly any taker for this. Now, coming to the point how a sustainable and profitable business model can be built. Now, let's step back a bit and look at what are the two major criterias for building a profitable business from any object. Point number one. Point number one is that the network which we are deploying should be cost effective, user friendly, and easy to use so that a lot of people who are involved with that network are easily adopting that network. Now, how do we build that type of network? We all know that India is a huge market and we have very different market dynamics than world has or what developing countries already have. So looking at what developing countries have done is not the solution. It is not the answer to our problems. What our network should be what is required in India, and these networks should be tuned and customized to our requirements so that they are cost effective and user friendly. Now, when we are saying that it should be tuned to our requirements, how do we tune them to our requirements? So the answer to this is, my friend Manohar is also sitting here, and Tejas was the company which worked with RailTel in very early stage to build the network for RailTel. And RailTel, we feel very proud that that's a network which is very user friendly and suiting our complete requirements of the country, because the deployments are there at each and every railway station of the country. Now, when Tejas started working, there were we started building the optical multiplexers and switches. At that point of time, whole market of optical switches and multiplexers used to be imported products, and there were hardly any Indian development. So at even small rural railway stations, there was need of putting a huge air conditioning setup. There were very high costs involved in maintaining those type of setup, and the equipment deployment cost was not even, I think, 30% or 40% of the overall requirement. So when RailTel defined these specifications, they defined that we need products which are suiting these requirements, where there cannot be a AC, there cannot be a dust-free environment, there cannot be an environment which is not supporting all the European standards or US standards. They just took this opportunity. We started working on the products, and today we very proudly say that most of the railway stations in the country, they are using equipments which are domestically manufactured, produced, suiting requirement where you don't need AC, where you don't need any dust-free environment, and they are rugged, works 24/7 without any problem. So my first point, the summary to this is that we need to have equipments, we need to have products which are suiting our needs, which are developed in our country to the requirements, and then we export worldwide. Now, point number two, which I also want to lay stress on. The point number two is that once we have built the network, how do we get the business? Because until unless there's a traction with lot of customers, there is no way that this network, which is deployed by a lot of operators, by Government of India, is going to give any revenue or any results. To ensure that this gives result, the users, the customers of rural India, they should get glued to this network. Here I again want to take an example so that we all get on same page. I am basically become a fan of CSC, which is an organization which is doing a lot of stuff for rural India. They are creating VLEs, which is village level entrepreneurs, who sell services whatever CSC is trying to sell. Now, how this works? Whenever you are wanting to sell something to a customer, there has to be connect between the seller and a customer. Let's say if I want to buy something, I will be very happy to buy a product or any service from someone whom I know very well. Now, what CSC has created a model is that they have village level entrepreneurs who are local village people who are very closely bonded with the people who are around them. And when they go and start selling services or solutions to them, villagers feel very happy, satisfied in taking those services from them. In the reverse, what is happening is that there is a traction between users, sellers, and the network providers to build a very, very happy, healthy and strong business. So to summarize this, we need to have a model where we have people who are selling services from these networks to our rural India, and then we create a very sustainable and profitable business. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Rajiv. This was fantastic. Mr. Satya Gupta.
Yeah, thank you, Sanjay. Good morning, everyone, and I'm really thankful to CII to give me this opportunity to share the dais with our great friends Vipin Tyagiji, Manor Raja, and in the morning session, of course, our leader Rajiv Mehrotra ji and my peer C.S. Rao Garu have actually said it all, and that shows there is a technology. What is required? A special technology is required for connecting the Bharat, and it is there, and it is made in India only. And then there is money also, as C.S. Rao ji mentioned. So what is missing in the business model? So you have the technology, you have the money. Only thing is you have to provide the service, and someone who can pay for that service you have to identify. So because then only you can have a sustainable business model. A service to be provided which people can pay for, not free. So I'll tell you, I'm actually doing a similar thing, and last year only my diary, every year I come with a diary. This diary is named Extra Mile Walking the Talk on Rural Broadband Business. It is getting revised. Next month you'll get a new copy, and all learning. Today I go to learning already in the morning, and they will also be captured. So the business model now starts with one, we are bringing a new concept, and that is what me and C.S. Rao Garu sold to the government and BSNL. It is called hotspot as a managed service. We have to go to the service layer. We should not be selling the boxes. We should not be selling the systems. We have to sell the service. So the hotspot as a managed service, the concept which was coined by C.S. Rao Garu and me, and which was accepted by government. So now we are providing the rural connectivity, especially the access, as a service. So we put our own money, the capex. So the capex is not an issue, though it is available, as C.S. also mentioned, as a subsidy, but it is actually not required. Capex is not required to make the business model sustainable. In fact, it is other way around. If capex is given as a subsidy for a system or for a service, it will never be sustainable. It will end. The moment the subsidy ends, it will end. So it is other way around. So we inverted the paradigm actually. We told, okay, we put our own capex so that we have a skin in the game, and we don't ask for the capex, and the things don't get delayed. And then we deliver to the end user what he needs as a service, what he needs. And what he needs, then only he will pay. So the concept of managed hotspot as a service, starting with the second thing for rural, like Rajiv Mehrotra ji also mentioned, we coined the term called 5L for a rural technology. The 5L, it's very simple, low cost. The cost is very, very important. That is why we have to make it in India. The low power, the power issue is always there. So because we have to put solar, whatever we say, the government says India rural is 100% electrified, but ground reality is not there, especially in rural. So we have to generate our own power, and solar. So solar has to be there. So for making the solar economical and affordable, you have to reduce the power consumption of your setup, your equipment. So you have to use all IP. These days there is all packetized technology, all IP thing is there. Like my system, which have a BTS, which have a controller, which have a server, everything needs only 19 watt of the power. Only 9, and it has 3 transceiver, just 19 watt. That is the beauty of all IP and new technology, and we generate solar there. So the low cost, low power, then low maintenance, because you cannot maintain it there. You can make it saaf safai, jisko bolte hain, tel pani, wo sab kar sakte ho, but you cannot just repair it or maintain it. It has to be maintained from somewhere else. So best thing is make it low maintenance, make it zero maintenance. IP67, you can make your active thing, putting in a IP67 box as if it is passive. It will not need any maintenance. So that is another thing. So low maintenance. Then the local control, actually that is where I differ with most of the technology stalwarts. These days everyone is talking about cloud. They say everything should go to cloud. Your control should go to cloud. Your content is already in cloud. So you should not put anything on the edge. So I'm differing with everyone. I've done it everything on the edge, not only in the edge, but I've taken it at the local. I've taken the cloud also local. There is a content server on that box which is put on a tower. There is a controller on that box, everything in a box, put it on a tower, and then we put it, I also call it EOT, everything on the tower. No building, no air conditioning, no shelter, nothing. Just put everything in a box, hang it on a tower which may already be there. Actually, you know, MAR towers are there. 6 lakhs multi-access radio relay towers are there, almost one in each village. You just make use of that MAR tower, hang your box there, where everything is there. So you have saved the cost, you have made it maintenance free, and also you are making use of the existing infra, because for a business case, you have to reduce the capex, even if you are putting your own money, but you have to conserve it. So you use the existing infra, whatever is there. Actually, you will be surprised to know, in villages, 70,000 towers of BSNL are there, 6 lakhs MAR towers are there, and they are idling, the capacity is idling. Why you have to put a new tower for taking Wi-Fi or a broadband to the village? You make use of existing infra, and tower is not all nothing. Our Vipin Tyagi is there. You can do it on a bamboo. You can do it on a water tank. You don't need a tower. I just need, like Archimedes principle, I just need a road. Give me a road long enough, strong enough, and I will change that village. So that is this. Now the other business model, of course, is PPP. Whatever you do, actually in villages, still there are issues on the ROI. What a private investor will need a ROI. So you make use of the existing infra, make use of public-private partnership, so that whatever government can give, take it. Whatever it is there, take it. But don't wait for it. And then you put your own money, and then also you have to be you have to get ROI. So PPP is still required. To get ROI, you have to provide something to someone who can pay for it, even if he cannot afford it. Like in village, and Mr. Sanjay, you also mentioned, World Bank study says, for broadband, even in a developing nation, even in a village, anybody is ready to spend 3% of his monthly revenue or income, monthly income. That comes $1.50, that comes about 100 rupees. Any villager is ready to give you 100 rupees per month if you give him broadband. He does not want it free. It is in urban only we want broadband free or Wi-Fi free. Rural guy, 100 rupees. 100 rupees is nothing. And what you need, if in a village there are 2,000 people, 200 guys buy your coupon, that is more than enough. Incidentally, I can tell you, with all these things, whatever I do, I just need $80 per month to sustain and recover my capex. $80 per month in a village, it's nothing. Just 50 people paying me 100 rupees per month. So that is what we have actually done, and it is working, and it is using everything, whatever is in the book. Make use of, outsource everything, make use of outsourcing, make use of whatever is available, make use of whatever government have given. Don't say, साहब ये तो दे दिया, but ये भी दे दो, ये भी दे दो, और wait करते रहो. तो जो उन्होंने दिया है उसको लीजिए, जो फिर आपके पास है उसको दीजिए, जो ऑलरेडी है वहां पे उसको make use करो, and then do something what those guys need. Just not for heck of it, like C.S. Rao Garu also mentioned. Just not to tick the box. You just have to know what they need. And that is what I'll stop at this. Sure.
This was fantastic. Thank you, Mr. Gupta. This was very informative. May I request Mr. Vipin Tyagi to share his perspective?
Very difficult to do it, talking in 5 minutes is difficult to attempt. Because so much has happened, so much has been done. CDOT is a technology and thought leader in the rural connectivity, not from now, from 1984. Whatever is working today in the rural area is working on CDOT technology, practically, apart from the wireless tower, which occasionally gives some connectivity there. We also are constantly upgrading that. About, as I speak, about 3 million those rural connections have come on NGN. We have 1,60,000 villages where CDOT technology is already providing all broadband today. We are geared up to provide those 5 million hotspots technology, award-winning, globally recognized Wi-Fi technology. And Satyaji talked about bamboo Wi-Fi. We tried it, bamboo works beautifully, all right. We tried it on balloon, it works even better. We tried it to have the whole understanding of the village structure. So you have a big bank and or a office, and below that you have a small people living on ground floor. If you are going to have the common Wi-Fi the way it is designed today, you'll not be able to do. So we did 3 antennas in 3 different directions and 3 different heights to cover the entire villages. An entire village, to our understanding, on an average can be covered by 3 hotspots of CDOT. Nobody has done planning, sitting in the village, looking at the geography and with a quality of service planning. We are trying to address the rural problem sitting from urban side, how it looks from here. That is the problem for quality of service. It's not, any other way. And everybody is trying to do it with the millimenistic involvement. So I do that, come back home. Consequently, there are 2-3 concepts that I wanted to talk about. Number one is Khadi electronics, and I've been talking about it for now for about a year. The Khadi electronics is that how Mahatma Gandhi actually wanted the planning to be done rural upward. Local needs should be fulfilled in the local areas. We should utilize the local resources to service the local population. That was the concept. Bring about self-sufficiency in the village. How can we do that in electronics? Of course, we require larger manufacturers. CDOT has 91 technology transfer agreements. About 3,500 crore of indigenously designed equipment have been manufactured last year. So, what I'm saying is it's possible to manufacture in India, period. In fact, the problem is the other way, they're not getting orders. And take that technology, give those boards and packaging in the rural blocks and big villages, where they're having radio repair shops, they have mobile repair shops, they have all these low-cost models which are already existing, and allow them to put Wi-Fi wherever it is feasible for them. Liberate, empower the smallest new upcoming businesses is what Khadi Electronics is all about. Do not make it look like it's a big deal. Wi-Fi is one of the simplest technology that has been created. But what it's trying to do, everybody is trying to look business in that without collaborating with them. Consequently, the Khadi Electronics, the moment we are able to bring it about, will solve the manufacturing problem, it will solve servicing problem, it will solve the involvement problem. We don't even know Oracle and those technologies first were taught in villages because people had aspirational things. All these programming, if you look at the programmer's profile in a MNC, you'll realize that at least 60% of those are coming from rural India, one way or the other. Those guys, they know why they have to migrate to get that service. So the point I'm trying to make, Khadi Electronics is the way of involving people, let them test it there, let them maintain it there, let them have the accountability, give them the what they cannot create in the rural India, which is large-scale electronic manufacturing, design, technology, and training, right? So this is first thing that I wanted to talk about. Second thing is that we have also built PDO, and no wonder we did it, because CDOT introduced PCOs long back, which changed the accessibility, because the idea was provide access, don't provide them the equipment. So same way, provide them service through PDO model. We designed a PDO, which was like village level, you can give couponing. Then we designed a mini PDO, which you can, take it on, hang it on a nail, and then you can provide. And in 3 months, I will have a micro PDO. Micro PDO is that you are walking around, you go wherever service is required, stand there, and then give them coupon right there, and then service it. All on mobile power bank, which is there. That is the power source. You can take it in the evening, charge it wherever it is available, give the service, create a hotspot, walking hotspot. So PDOs are the way. Why PDO is important? Because if I don't have money and I have to do something, I should be able to do it in the money that I have in pocket. And I was meeting all these rural level entrepreneurs, about 2 lakh plus, about 2,50,000 people are working in CSC, and I saw the sea of these new level entrepreneurs. They were all having backpack behind, they were all wearing jeans and a t-shirt, and they knew about Wi-Fi technology better than the people I have met in urban areas. This is the new aspirational India, which is going to service the cause. If we bypass them, then there will be problems. So they are the ones who are giving coupons. Insurance has been a big thing in villages. how many lakhs of LIC you have, and the people used to talk about that. They can service all of those. So consequently, the point I'm trying to make, PDO model, aggregate the demand and make it viable is what is going to work as a starting point. Once we are able to have the economic returns in the villages, then we will be able to increase the pricing. Employment generation, I think the situation in the villages regard to employment is really, really bad. I think you cannot even imagine. The lands are getting divided. You know, whatever land they have, one generation goes 4 times, 2 times, 3 times. There is a division, acquisition, mergers, all that of the land is happening. Land record. So consequently, the income is likely to go up on per capita basis is doubtful. So what do? That's why it is important to provide alternate employment opportunity based on what we are trying to do, engaging with them. Okay. Then last one is the IoT that you talked about. It's a fantastic thing that you brought about. I thought about that. I think we have to provide the services which are actually designed to make the life, I would say, livable for the rural India. And they have to go 4 o'clock in the morning to switch on the pump and find out when electricity is going to come. They don't know. Wake up 2 o'clock in the night, walk down all the way 2 kilometers to their village, switch it on, the pump. In the night, go there and see where water is going for 2 hours, come back. This can be easily solved. CDOT has already built the technology based on LoRa, the platform, and everything is available. So technology is not the issue. Last thing, absolutely, we have to understand the customer. We don't understand the customer. I think there is the studies which are done with the, as if they are the same as us, and what is my analytics and what is the analytics of the village, I try to compare. I go with the framework designed here, I go back there to the village and I try to fit in that framework. All my analytics is like that. I think the way music is consumed in the rural area, the way voice is communication, and the way functions happen, the way transportation happens in the rural India, the way the tools are designed, the way these tractors are used multiple times on hourly basis, the pump where you have to take 3 hours rental of the pump which goes from one field to another field. The dynamics is totally different. Unless we understand our customer, and these are so many, India is a very large country, so the problems can be different everywhere. Consequently, the last thing that I want to talk about is bring about the understanding the customer, model your services. Government and private services have to be blended together to generate the business model. It exists because the large young population is there. That's what has been proven by Facebook. That's what has been proven by the WhatsApp. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Tyagi. Mr. Manohar Raja, if you can share your perspective.
Thank you, sir. Good morning, all. We had some interesting discussions, so I'll try to, keep my conversations around it and not repeat what some valid observations have been made. I think we need to understand. Let's look at the bigger puzzle. What we are trying to fix here. We have this core network from a network perspective. I'm a network guy, so I'll have to look at from a network perspective. We have a core network, then we have a network which has been brought to the village, and then we're trying to build a business around it. So one of the first challenges we have is how can we invest in businesses in the village when the upstream network does not guarantee SLAs. That's one of the first challenges which we need to fix. And I think we will start working on it, and that will get fixed, because you cannot invest in this network if you upstream, if all your services have to be evacuated out, and if that network does not have an SLA, your experience and your investment cannot be sustained. So that is one of the things which I'm sure we have just started this BPNL rollout, and that will get fixed, and that's very important, because otherwise it will be like putting the cart before the horse. This has to be fixed. The second thing which I want to think is, if we have to build a sustainable business at that level, we have to do 2 things. First thing is, we have to keep the costs very low, which is such a simple thing to say, but there are many ways in which we need to build those costs low. One thing is, if the cost of living our rural India is so low, the cost of servicing a rural point of presence is very expensive. Okay, it's because we have always thought that we'll have engineers in the nearby towns and cities who will travel. It will take a lot of time to go and deliver that and come. And here I really believe this Khadi electronics concept is that many things are very simple. We have to learn to build capability in the villages, keep the system there from their perspective very simple. A lot of training is an issue, and after that you will find that 90% of the problems can be solved at that level, and then your cost to serve will considerably get reduced. And mostly, and if things require beyond that, then you don't try to repair it. You need to plan a replacement for it. The way to build sustainable businesses is what I can tell you from our experience. I work for RailTel, and in RailTel we have a lot of capacity in the railway stations, along the railway track, and we realized that once we had a carrier business model, and we were looking for new business models, and we realized we have capacity in the stations, and how do we take it outside? How to create value out of it? And then we built a collaborative model called RailWire, wherein we used entrepreneurs, cable operators, and everybody, and those started becoming our access network partners, and we have delivered broadband to homes. We could have scaled it much faster, but we still have 120,000 homes which we are serving with about 4,000 or 5,000 partners. All of them have really raised their earning level substantially. This model has given us insights on how collaborative businesses work, how very large corporations can make it very simple for people to work at the end, how to automate things, and then take it forward. Another thing which we tried again we said we have capacity in the railway stations, and how do we create an impact? So we know people are coming to the railway stations. So and we realized that okay, capacity is there. If we can build a Wi-Fi network there, people can come and use it. But we realized that if your Wi-Fi network by itself is not very attractive unless you create a wow experience. If it's a slightly broken or difficult experience, people do not want to go through the loops and use it. And so we decided if you're going to create a Wi-Fi network in the station, it has to be something which the experience should be that people should remember and then use it again. And so we collaborated with the global provider like Google, who had similar interests of expanding the internet ecosystem, and who invested partly in some of the access network, and together we built something, and it's a good revelation to see. And I think many people have, I don't know about China, but otherwise it's probably the largest public Wi-Fi network in the world, with more than 1 million sessions a day. So what we are saying is, if we can collaborate, if we can get people together, we can create a lot of value across. Okay, and while collaboration was one way to reduce costs, another way is how we can absolutely aggregate services. It's true that the subscriber at the village level does not have money to spend on many things. Okay, he is extremely economical, very frugal. It is something which we really appreciate. But he needs access to many services, and there are people who can provide those services. The problem is, right now those services are out of his bounds because of the cost of delivery of the services. People who give credit need to access them. They also need credit, but the cost of servicing a single customer becomes very expensive. What if our entrepreneur in the village, our digital entrepreneur in the village, can aggregate not only the insurance, the credit, the government services, his ticketing needs, everything, all, and then you see that is the even if he charges a few rupees per transaction, then it is a win-win game for everybody. I think the key thing for us to provide sustainable business is how we can build platforms which will aggregate all the services people require. If there are, like for instance, even from the government, we have to see how we can build these institutional linkages to go and reach them, because you have an agricultural extension program and you have funds to go and reach and create the support to the agriculture needs of the farmers in the villages. How do you use that platform? Because that, if they want to reach them, let's provide a platform to reach them and find out how the value is created. Maybe it could be a paid service, the farmer will be willing to pay a small amount of thing, or maybe this department has funds to reach and create that impact. It's for us to build that kind of systems. Maybe if the health department needs to do various kind of disease surveillance, they have budgets for that. What we need is to create very simple technologies which will go and aggregate those things. All these things, if you aggregate, is when this kind of business there, the investment there will become sustainable. So I think the key, to repeat, I think we can reduce cost by indigenization, by collaboration, and building local entrepreneurship skills. We can build the value to the business there or the entrepreneur there by aggregating all kinds of services, because people need access. The government has money to provide that access. The key thing is to create the platform where everybody can meet each other. Okay, and I think once we have such platforms, we already have some platforms in thing. We need to keep developing more and perhaps more extensive platforms, and that will be the way in which we can make this business successful. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Manohar Raja. May I request Mr. Ravi Gandhi, Chief Regulatory Officer, Bharti, to share his thoughts.
Thank you, Sanjay. I think let me give some other perspective to what most of my previous speaker has spoken. We are talking of rural connectivity for everyone. So let's understand how to make the business model sustainable. The sustainable model can be made by two ways, either to reduce the cost or to increase the revenue. So increase the revenue, I think, is linked with the paying capacity of the customers. And Mr. Gupta talked about 3% of the revenue if it's in the range of say 100 rupees a month, it can make a viable business case. But we also need to see whether even the 100 rupees per month is available for that or not. I think that's also a point which we must be conscious of. Is the urban counterpart, are they ready to spend 3% or not? If you see the mobile industry, which is providing almost 10 GB data every month, the ARPU is in the range of 80 to 90 rupees in the urban areas. So can you expect the same in the rural area? Can you get from few people? Can you get from every home, every person? Is one thing. Second is the cost. How do you reduce the cost? In the cost, I think one point which is coming about was having the low-cost technology, having the indigenous technology, having, say, as Mr. Vipin Tyagi spoke about, Khadi electronics. But one thing we need to understand is how much is the electronics cost out of the total cost of operations of a telecom network. We need to understand that. Typically in a mobile network, electronic cost is in the range of 10 to 15%, maximum 20%. When we lay fiber, electronics cost, including the fiber cost, is less than 10%, or in the rural area it can be 40% because lower ROW charges. So what we are actually discussing is majorly around the cost, which is say 10 to 30% of the total cost of operations of a telecom network, which is there to deliver the services. Where the rest of the cost lies, I think we need to understand that. Before I go into that, what are the typical problems if you build any telecom network? What are the 2-3 expectations which one would like to see is, one is the network which is available always. Okay, if you get an electricity connection and the electricity is not there for 2-3 hours, you'll start getting panicking, start making phone call here and there. But if your internet connection or a telephone connection is not working even for 10 minutes, you'll get panicked. Your BP will start rising. Why it is not working? So the quality of service is very, very important when we talk about any kind of telecom network. Today we may talk about that there is absolutely no connectivity in a village. Whatever we give, that is good. But the moment you give, then the expectation is to get the same quality of service by any user. Just to give an example, in good old days when MTNL, BSNL were the one who were giving the fixed line connection and there was a long waiting list. So people were waiting for years actually to get the telephone line. But the moment your number comes, then you don't have even the patience of one day. Then you will start going around to the telephone exchanges to get it done, and the moment your telephone set is put at your home, and it is not, say, jumpered in the MDF to get you the dial tone, you will start checking after every 5 minutes that whether the dial tone has come or not. So that's the expectation of the people. The moment you give them the connectivity, expectation is to get the best. You cannot create a network in the village which is different from what is the network in the urban areas. We can't even be discussing that we build 5G in the urban area and build a low-grade technology which is poor in quality of service, which has very low in uptime and availability in the rural areas. So that is, I think, what we need to ensure that the uptime is very, very high. So it's not a problem of electronics and problem of technology, it is more the problem of network architecture. In what is the best form to reach to, best network architecture to reach to the people in the remotest part of the world, remotest part of the country. Is it the fiber plus Wi-Fi the best model to reach? I think what are the challenges? Let's understand that. Before, I think when we plan telecom network, there are 3 questions which any telecom operator, whether it is a Wi-Fi operator, whether it's a mobile operator, would have to ask. One is who. It's basically 3 W's: who, where, and when. So who is my customer? What kind of service he requires? Where he requires the services? Whether he requires the services inside his home or where he requires the services wherever he wants. Third is when. Does he require the services during the day, not in the night, or does he require the services 24/7 with an SLA of more than 99%? I think the moment we try to answer these 3 questions, the answer starts coming in. Answer would be, what are the typical problems which we face? The first and foremost problem is we are not building, because the moment we say where, means customer requires services everywhere. So you are not going to build a fixed line network. So if you are not building the fixed line network, you cannot feed the power through the copper wire or some other means. So there has to be an active element in the hand of the customer, so which comes to the battery or the power at the remote site. And if you are carrying a remote terminal, that means it has to be served by some network element. That network element requires power. So do we have the power? Are we building a, say, Wi-Fi network, or are we building a power network? Are we actually building solar, DG and so many things? Do we have the power? How do we get the low power thing? Is the solar right way? Or do we need to have a different network architecture? Do we really need to go, say, every 50 meters to the customer or follow the customer and keep on creating the power network? Or can we serve the customer from a distance where you have the availability of the power? Can you aggregate the demand at a distance from where you can create the aggregated power and then serve many more customers? I think that's the network architecture which we need to be understood. The moment you go closer to the customer, the problem of power starts increasing. The moment you go away from the customer, the problem of power can be solved. Second, if we keep that in mind that the fiber plus Wi-Fi is the only solution, what is the uptime of the fiber? We have laid the fiber, BBNL has laid the fiber, we know the uptime of the fiber, because when is very important. When customer wants the services we have to provide, not when we want to provide the services customer will use. So if the fiber cut is there and it is not repaired for 3 days, then what kind of service we are providing? So we have to have a mechanism where you have an alternate path. So we need to have a different thought process to reach to the villages, where we need to have a different network architecture. which solves the problem of fiber cut, which solves the problem of power. So can we have an alternate to fiber? Can we have a, say, fiber through a good backhaul spectrum, supplemented by fiber, so that you always have an uptime using the high speed, high capacity microwave, and the fiber in addition to that. Secondly, you are not actually going too close to the customer where you face the power problem. Can you serve them from a distance and create the aggregated capacity there? Can you have a macro cellular network, which we started in the cities? All the cities were connected using the macro cellular network. These were not connected by microcellular. Had we tried or attempted that, probably we would have failed there. Some of us, we tried personal access system, we tried cordect and DECT and so many small cell kind of technologies around 15 years ago. All technologies failed because of the same issues, power issues, connectivity issues, backhaul issues, etc., etc. So, only 1 minute. So I think that's where we need to solve the problem, is that when we are reaching there, we need to create larger cells, and we need to connect the customers through alternate means and not only restrict on fiber plus Wi-Fi model. Thank you.
Thank you so much. So we are on a little bit of a time crunch. The special plenary session is going to be addressed by the chief guest, Srimati Aruna Sundarajan, and she's on her way. So Rajesh, help me out. You have
sure.
about 5 to 6 minutes.
Yeah, sure. I'll be short and crisp.
Thank you.
Thanks, Ravi. I think you touched very pertinent points in terms of what actually our rural demands actually. We can't be purely, as CS talked in the first session, that just tick boxing the rural network. Just to give you a little bit of what we are doing, iConnect is presently, catering to the rural Rajasthan right now, building up last mile digital connectivity in the last mile. Today we got close to 2,000 hotspots, and we have got almost equivalent homes connected in different rural villages right now in Rajasthan. Most important aspect when we talk about the topic, what we have been told about is basically we have to need to think about affordability and sustainability. Affordability in terms of the customer and sustainability in terms of what we are actually doing, because without sustainability the business would not grow, and we will not be able to deliver, otherwise it will be just tick boxing there. And it's important to differentiate, as Ravi said, very important to differentiate the need of the customer, which is the last mile customer, because each customer is different in rural India as such and has to be addressed in a different form. We may talk about hotspots, but hotspots is not the model purely for all the customers. There are women folks in villages who don't come on road to talk about, using your internet bandwidth, but they want to use that internet. And so obviously the connected home is an option. Then the second option which is there is basically, are people willing to pay for it? Yes, there are people who are willing to pay, as Mr. Gupta mentioned, that 100 rupees or 200 rupees. I can tell you that, you'll be surprised that today we got almost 500,000 customers who use our network, and out of that 30% customers are using 300 to 400 rupees pack a month. So that should tell us that, it's not that the viability is not there, the people are not willing to pay. It's important to see that how the quality is maintained, and that is the biggest challenge in this whole game. He said, I think Mr. Gandhi talked about COSI model, where fiber and wireless cannot be only a solution. Yes, obviously we need to look at newer technologies in terms of giving that bandwidth at the last mile, because we are just access players. At the end, we are drawing all this power from all the back-end providers, like for example Airtel is one of them. So they also need to be available at that time. So availability is an important aspect of it. I can tell you an example. We just launched one of the small villages in Rajasthan, Sujangarh. We started with a simple model of 45 Mbps, thinking that it is just a startup. And within 1 week, we saw the demand peaked up to 155 Mbps. Now, can we cater to that demand in 1 week? It's not happening. So that is where the challenges start coming in. And then hardware increase from the Airtel side, that takes time and all that. So when I talk about, we talked about 3 models which we are talking about. One is connected homes, where an average ARPU is roughly around 600 rupees in rural India, so people are willing to pay that money in rural India. We're talking about 2,000 homes. And then we talk about the people who can pay coupons. And then there are coupons like it starts from 10 rupees to people who can buy a monthly pack unlimited up to 300 rupees as well. And there are those set of people who don't want to pay anything. So we have created a different model for them because we don't want to lose them as well. We want to give them the flavor of internet because that is where today they are talking about, what you call as entertainment, enterprise, education, and, what you call as entrepreneurship as a model. But when you want to go for fintech and IoTs and all that, till the learning of using of internet will not be there, they will not be able to embrace those new technologies in the rural India. There will be a challenge in that. So education and use of internet is a must in that aspect. So we have created a new model which is called an ad bundling model. So what we tell them that, guys, don't pay for anything. See the ad and use the internet. And at the end we monetize our ad through the ad bundling model. So, the other thing which we are exploring is obviously the OTT model and the advertising model, which is a hyper-local advertising model. Like, take the space for a month to a company like HLL, and if you want to promote a product in this rural India for 1 month, use this hotspots for promoting your, and take this, for 1 month. That kind of a model is something which is picking up very slowly. This is a new experiment. I don't know how it's going to take forward, but these are the few initiatives which we are doing presently in the market. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thanks, Rajesh, and thanks for being absolutely on dot 6 minutes. So we have had an excellent session, and with a lot of thoughts coming in, right from what Rajiv suggested about customized and cost-effective solutions. So two big messages which are coming in here, or few big messages. One is cost of solution should be very low. We should really figure out the right mix of technology for really keeping the cost low. The second thing which is coming out in this discussion is it's just not deploying a solution, but it is also about really providing the right level of quality of service. Unless you do that, you won't be able to really get good traction. We heard about Khadi Electronics, localize to bring down the cost of the solution, localize as much as possible in the villages, whether it is manufacturing or whether it is servicing of that equipment, because as Ravi also mentioned, one of the big part of this whole conundrum of high capex for rural environment is delivery of that solution to the end consumer. And if we are able to maintain that or provide those services for maintaining the telecommunication infrastructure in the village, to Mr. Vipin Tyagi's point, that's really going to bring down significantly the cost of providing solutions. Then, of course, the model which has been, a lot of discussion has happened on collaborative business, which Manoharji talked about essentially. How can we collaborate with the businesses to bring business models or aggregate services, not just sell bandwidth as a service, but aggregate service and provide that as a solution. And then Rajesh mentioned about, beautiful model about not just charging for the bandwidth. I mean, you have certain customers who are willing to pay for the bandwidth, which Mr. Gupta also talked about. But then you have customers who are not willing to pay for the bandwidth. And then he has put together some beautiful model based on advertising models, which are, OTT model and, some creative model where the applications start paying for the service essentially. And I think this is the kind of discussion which we need, because this is not something which is cast in die from a standpoint of what kind of business model can succeed. I mean, this is such 600,000 villages so widely spread. So there are going to be multiple business models which we really need to work in order to address such a large expanse of villages and such a large population, 90 crore people really sitting in rural India. So thank you, gentlemen. It was fantastic. Thank you so much for sharing your perspective.